Hello, I'm Malcolm Cox, and this is your Tuesday teaching tip for Tuesday the 30th of May 2017. And today we're talking about how to use a lectern. How to use one of these. Often when we're speaking, whether we're preaching or teaching or doing some other kind of presentation, we have something like this, a music stand or perhaps a larger construction there between us and the people to whom we are speaking. What should we do with it? How should we use it? That's what we're talking about today. The first thing I would say is, if you can possibly do it, do away with the lectern whatsoever. It's so good to not have any barriers between us and a congregation. But secondly, if you need to use it, and often we do, then preferably, rather than have it here, move it to one side. It makes such a difference if there's nothing directly between us and those to whom we are speaking. I don't think Jesus had a lectern, and in fact, generally speaking, we want to do away with it, or at least move it to one side. You might need to have it because you've got books on there. Perhaps you need to have your Bible handy, perhaps an iPad or some other kind of notes, and maybe a prop or two. We'll come to that in a moment. But moving it to the side can be helpful. The second thing, if you do need one, have it at the right height. So for example, if you have to have it in front of you, this is not the right height. Why? Because it's obscuring me from the people to whom I'm speaking. So you want to lower it to a height that will still work if you have to have it in front of you, where you can at least read your notes or whatever you need to be having to hand, and it also will not then be in the way. Something perhaps like that height. The other thing you want to do is check that it is stable before you use it. So before the beginning of the service or the event, go out and have a look. Don't trust the people who've put it up. They may not be thinking about speaking. So check that it is tight, that all the different nuts and bolts are okay. It's not uncommon to see someone put a nice big Bible down on something like this and the whole thing goes flat and things go flying, which creates some amusement for those who are watching, but can be somewhat distracting. So check the nuts and bolts are tight. Move it to one side, get it to the right height if you possibly can, and use it wisely. I needed to have one the other day because as I was preaching, I used an old diary of mine from 1974, my childhood diary, as an illustration. And to have it handy here was useful rather than having to wander off to some other table, pick it up from the floor. Having it within arm's reach enabled the whole presentation to flow better. So I think those are the main things. But one other thing, the last thing I would say is, if you do have something like this, a lectern of one type or another, a couple of last things to bear in mind. One is not to hold on to it the whole time. You may have seen people speaking who are holding on to it for dear life, as if they were going to be submerged and drown unless they held on to it. It's a sign of insecurity and of a lack of trust in God that we have to hold on to something like this. So don't hold on to the thing and don't lean on it. I mean, quite apart from the fact that something like this is not designed to be leant on, and it may damage it if we do, but also it tends again to create that kind of barrier between us and those to whom we are speaking. So don't hold on to it the whole time. Don't lean on it. Put it off to one side, but within reach, and then we will make the best use of a lectern. What do you do when you have something there? When you have a lectern or something similar, do you move it to one side? Do you allow it to be in front of you? What's your thinking? What's your philosophy behind that? And do you have any other tips as to how to use these things best? I'd like to know your thoughts. And by the way, if you have subscribed to these, thank you ever so much. If you haven't, please consider doing so, because the more people who subscribe, and especially the more people who comment on what we are discussing in these videos and recordings, the more it spreads the word to other people. So please do so if you possibly can. If you've got any ideas for this episode or upcoming ideas for things you'd like to hear me speak about, then leave a comment here, or you can email me, mccx@mac.com. I'd love to know your thoughts. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Until the next time, I hope you have a terrific Tuesday and a wonderful week. God bless.